Okay, today we're going to be using what we already know about percents to figure out the final cost of something after a sales tax or a tip, or figure out how much you might tip, which is a very important thing that you will actually use in real life because it deals with money and people all have to spend money. So last week we solved percents with proportions. You want to use that method if you're ever asked for the original amount of something, or if it's like what percent of this is this, or that type of question. If you are just asked for um, just the total cost of something and it's not the original amount, this is what you want to do because it's a shortcut. The shortcut is to turn your percent into a decimal and multiply. You will see this method probably 90 to 95% of the time that you're asked something about a percent. So turn into a decimal and multiply. So 67% as a decimal is 0.67. So we're just going to practice turning these into decimals. 7% as a decimal, remember, move it 2 places to the left to get 0.07. That's a very important percent because it's Indiana sales tax. 3, we're going to move it twice to the left to get 0.005. And if you wanted to stick a 0 out in front, you could. Last one, 2/5. We first need to figure out what is 2/5 as a decimal. So 2 divided by 5. 5 doesn't go into 2, so we put a 0 in a decimal. 5 goes into 24 times. So I know that 2/5 is 0.4, so I'm trying to figure out 0.4%. Just because I turn the fraction into a decimal doesn't mean it's not a percent anymore. So we still need to move that decimal over twice to get 0.004. Okay, now the next examples, we're going to be figuring out the total cost of something. And we're going to use our shortcut. So for number 1, it says find the total cost round to the nearest cent, so nearest hundredth. There's 2 numbers after the decimal. So we're going to start by turning your 20% into a decimal and multiplying. Some people say, what do you multiply by? The only other number that they tell you. So 58 times 0.20. And that's going to give me 1160. And so since that's a tip makes it more expensive. So we're going to add it back onto the bill. So 58 plus 1160 would give me a total of 6960. So anytime it asks for tip or sales tax or something called gratuity, we are going to add it back onto the cost. So your final bill would be 6960. Number 2, we're buying a $1,500 computer, 7% sales tax, so I'm going to multiply it by 0.07, and that's going to give me 105. So the tax is $105. So the total would be 1,500 plus 105. So you're actually paying $1,605 for that computer after tax. So tax does add on pretty quickly. For number 3, find a CD player, $99, 5% tax, so times 0.05. That's going to give you $495. So take what the cost was, 99 plus $495, and your total would be $103.95. I don't think CD players are really worth that anymore, but you never know. Number 4, gratuity is really another word for tip. It's usually a tip when you have a large amount of people at your table, but it's still a tip. So we have $43 times 0.18, and that is $7.74. So you are going to be tipping the waitress $7.74. So 43 plus 7.74 is 50.74. Sometimes you'll be asked for just the tip or just the tax. If they ask for just that, I just want the first number. But since I want the total cost, that's why we are adding it back on. Okay, number 5, we're buying pizza for $39 and we're going to tip 15%, so multiply by 0.15. And that is going to give me $5.85. So to figure out the total, 39 plus 585 is going to give me $44.85. Number 6, this question is asking for just the sales tax, so always pay attention to your question. We're buying a video game system that's $178.90, and we want to multiply it by this percent, so we're going to move that over twice. So we're going to actually multiply it by 0.0575. And that is about 10.28675 in your calculator. So we need to round that to money near a cent. So the sales tax is going to be about $10.29, because near a cent is 2 numbers after the decimal, but this 6 makes that 8 round up to a 9. If it was 4 or less, it would stay 28, but since it's bigger than 4, it's going to round up. Hannah takes her dog to be groomed. The fee to groom the dog is $75 plus tax. I would know, is $80 enough to pay for the service? So 75 times, we're going to move that decimal over twice to get 0.0675. And that's going to give me 5.0625. So that rounds to about $5.06. So tax is 506, so I'm going to add that back on to 75 to get a final cost of 80.06. So I need to see, is $80 enough? So the answer is no. Hannah needs 6 cents. Plus, usually if you go to a dog groomer, you also need to tip, so definitely not enough. Last one, a manicure costs $18. Sales tax is 8.25%, but we're also going to tip. So we're going to do this separately. We always do the tip last. So I'm going to do 18 times the sales tax, so that's 0.0825, which is 1.485. So that means that the tax is about $1.49. So I'm going to add that back to 18. So with tax, you're going to be paying $19.49, but we still need to include the tip. So you're going to take the amount with tax, $19.49, multiply that by 0.20. And that's going to be 3.898. So your tip is going to be about $3.90. So when you add it back on, add it back to this $19.49, because we still need to include the sales tax. So $19.49 plus $3.90 will give you a total of about $23.39 for your final cost. So you might be asked questions like that a lot, where there's a sales tax and a tip, or tomorrow we'll have a discount and a tax. So remember, tip always comes last, and then tomorrow you'll find out that discounts will go first. If you have any questions, please let me know.